You know, whenever a company kicks off a new project, it's standing at a fork in the road. One path leads to partnership, the other, well, it can lead to a whole lot of conflict with the local community. Today, we're going to break down a framework that shows exactly how that choice gets made. It's called the ASEC model, and it gives us a kind of collaboration ladder to climb. Think about it. Every single time a new project breaks ground, it's facing this critical crossroads. And every single decision, from way up in the boardroom down to the folks on the construction site, it can either pave the way for a great collaboration or, lay the groundwork for some serious conflict. So, what decides which path it'll take? Well, it's not random. It's a direct result of the actions taken by everyone involved. And that's exactly where the ASEC model comes in. It gives us this collaboration ladder, a really simple way to see which actions build bridges, and frankly, which ones burn them right to the ground. All right, so let's start climbing this ladder from the very, very bottom. This is the rung where things go completely off the rails. We're talking level 0, failed activities. This image here just perfectly captures that uh-oh feeling, right? These are what we call failed activities, and they get a value of 0, and for a really good reason. They don't just stall progress, they actively pour gasoline on the fire of social conflict, and that costs companies a ton of time, money, and their reputation. So what does this failure actually look like? Well, it's usually not just one big mistake. It's a whole pattern of disrespect. Flat out not listening to what the community is saying, hiding important info, just taking over land without asking, or breaking promises about money. Every single one of these is like a broken promise that just destroys any trust you might have had. Okay, here's a perfect real-world example. A company needs a new road. So what do? They just build it on community land. No conversation, no permission, nothing. That is a textbook level 0 mistake, a failed activity with a value of 0, and it's that exact kind of spark that can start a massive fire. Okay, so once a mistake's been made, how do you fix it? That's the next rung up on the ladder. It's level 1, corrective actions. This visual really says it all, doesn't it? The big shift from conflict to correction is all about moving from just ignoring people to actually, finally listening to them. The first step up this ladder is simply to do the exact opposite of whatever caused the failure in the first place. This is that, okay, we messed up moment. Corrective actions, they have a value of 1, and their entire purpose is to start bringing down the intensity of the conflict. It's all about admitting there's a problem and then taking those first steps to actually make it right. Now, the game plan here is pretty simple, but that doesn't mean it's easy. It means you finally start listening. You open up the books, you share information, you keep your promises. The goal right now isn't to solve everything overnight, but it is to rebuild just enough trust to get everyone to sit down at the negotiating table. And let's go back to our case study for a sec, because this is super important. It's not just the company that can take action. When the community complains about that road that was built without permission, they are performing a corrective activity. They're the ones trying to pull the situation up from that disastrous level 0 to a more hopeful level 1. But fixing problems is one thing. What if you could just not have them in the first place? That's much smarter, right? And that brings us up to level 2, preventative measures. This is where you get smart. You shift from putting out fires to actually fireproofing the whole place. Preventive activities have a value of 2, and they're all about foresight, about seeing problems before they happen and building healthy relationships right from day 1. So how do you actually prevent conflict? Well, you build systems for people to work together. This isn't about just having a few meetings here and there. It's about creating permanent things, like joint environmental committees or social funds for community development or regular forums with local leaders. It means you do your homework. You map out who the stakeholders are so you actually understand the social landscape before you make a move. And you can see the proof right there in that graph. When communication is open and problems are dealt with before they blow up, the conflict intensity stays incredibly low. The relationship is healthy, which means those little disagreements never get the chance to spiral into a major crisis. All right, now we're getting to the very top of the ladder. This is the gold standard, folks. Level 3, proactive partnerships. This top level with a value of 3 is a total game changer. It's not about just avoiding problems anymore. It's about actively working together to create positive outcomes. You're no longer just trying to keep the peace. You're actually building a better future together. I mean, just look at what's happening here. This isn't about just trying to keep people happy. This is about genuine investment in the community's success. You're training leaders, you're supporting local organizations, and you're helping to diversify the local economy beyond your own project. This is what a real long-term commitment to shared success actually looks like. And the result? It's pretty incredible, right? As this graph shows, when you get to this level of proactive partnership, the conflict intensity basically drops to zero. Trust is high, communication is constant, and everybody is pulling in the same direction. This is when you really earn what they call a social license to operate. Okay, so before we wrap up the ladder, there's one more category we got to talk about. The things that happen on the sidelines that don't move you up or down. These are the neutral activities. Basically, these are the actions that, well, they don't really do much of anything. They don't make things better, but they don't make them worse either. Think about going to a meeting just to watch or gathering a bunch of info but never doing anything with it. They just keep things as they are. That's why they don't have a value in this model. They just don't move the needle one way or the other. All right, so we've climbed this whole ladder. And what it really boils down to is this. It's all about choice. Every single stakeholder has to decide which rung they want to be on. So here it is, the whole ladder laid out for you. The path is pretty clear, right? You can stay stuck at the bottom with failed actions that just create more conflict, or you can start climbing, first through corrective actions to fix mistakes, then up to preventive measures to avoid trouble in the first place, and all the way to the top with proactive partnerships that create real shared value. The choice is there, and the higher you climb, the stronger the collaboration gets. At the end of the day, this model isn't just some abstract theory. It's a practical guide. It shows that moving from conflict to collaboration is just a series of deliberate steps. So the final question is really for anyone involved in these kinds of complex projects. Every single action you take is a choice. So, which rung will you choose?